Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. This is the Spicy Pecan podcast.
Have you ever had a dream that you could do so you could.
Welcome back, people. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Spicy Pecan podcast. I am your host, the spiciest pecan, Nina. Welcome any new pecans. If you are brand new to the show, make sure you take time now to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on the audio directories, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you leave me a review and tell the makers how great I am. They actually share my content. The more reviews and the more downloads I have. So thank you. Oh my goodness. How is everybody feeling? How is everybody feeling? I will tell you how I feel, which is not great. I don't know what's been going on. I've been talking to a couple of people about this. My mood has been like kind of down, more down than it typically is. I usually wake up most days where I'm like, all right, what's going on today? And recently I've just been like, blah. I don't know what's happening. I'm actually starting to get annoyed by myself, because I'm not in my normal energy. And I was just wondering if anybody else is going through that. I was watching the Biden's town hall last night. I hope you guys saw that because it is very important that we are paying attention to the President of the United States' plans for the country. If you didn't check it out, you can actually check out the replays on YouTube, which I highly suggest you do. We need to stay on top of this stuff. It's very important. But he actually even mentioned that we have to be conscious of a whole population of people who have just been really beat down. All of the effects of the pandemic, all of the effects that the pandemic had on the economy and the changes, and we're working differently, and it's just been a lot. And we have to remember also, if you're doing well, if you're like, I don't know what she's talking about. I feel fine. I feel, great. If you are feeling well, first of all, blessings to you. That is great. But also remember that a lot of people are not in the space that you're in. People have lost people due to COVID. People have had to change jobs, had to move. There's been a lot of loss and change and devastation to some people. Community leaders have died. Communities have been impacted. The older generations of families have died. So, just keep that in mind. I don't know that I'm experiencing seasonal depression or anything like that, even though I'm not ruling that out. Mental health is a very real thing. I do know that, and I probably should mention this, the holidays are a very, very tough time to addicts, recovering addicts like myself. I have not had a drink in 5 years come this November. And is it 5 or 6 years? I think it's 5 years. 5 years come November. But I know that this was traditionally a tough time for me. I know that I had a few really bad relapses in this time of trying to maintain my sobriety. The holidays are just very tough for many different reasons. I don't really know why I experience, I don't know if it's the weather changing for me and that's what affects my moods and maybe contributed to my struggles before and whatever mood I'm in now. But I do know that this is a very, very tough time. So if you do know someone who struggles, if you know someone who is a former addict, keep your eye on them. Check in, with your friends, even your strong friends, which, a lot of us addicts, we tough, we strong, we can handle it on our own. No, we can't. Make sure you check on your people. I did just want to, I wanted to share that because I don't want people to, that's another reason why I don't always wear makeup and things to this show. This is real. You know, this is real. I am not doing this show to become somehow wildly famous one day. I am typically the person that is behind the scenes. I literally do this show because there I have information to share. One, I typically find myself in a sharing information stance most of my life. And I also know that most of the people that I am in circle with get their news from social media. And I would just like to be another avenue that maybe opens your mind to something or, educates you on a reality rather than, some, because there's a lot of bull on social media. And I typically run into people that will recite back to me some crazy, crazy shit that is just not true. And it's not their fault because a lot of the stuff looks like it's true. So that is one of the biggest reasons. But the biggest reasons, if this is your first show checking in, the biggest reason I am doing this show is because it was a step that I needed to take to build my confidence. Like I said, I've always been behind the scenes. I have rarely been the person out front, especially after becoming sober. A lot of addicts actually, especially after getting sober, believe that their confidence is tied to the drug that they were using. So maybe you don't feel as confident as you do approaching someone to ask them out on a date as much as you did when you had a drink in your hand, right? You see the theory? And that is a very real thing. And sometimes people kind of internalize that where they don't outwardly realize that that's what they believe, but that is what they believe. So obviously, I ain't no robot. I kind of suffered from that a little bit as well. I kind of felt like, man, did all my confidence come from booze? Like, how confident was I, before then? And the sad part about my story is that I really never had a good relationship with alcohol. I pretty much had a terrible relationship with alcohol since being very young. And I started drinking very young. So that even further muddied the waters, for me. But I say that to say that me starting the show was a promise that I made to myself that I was going to break through that and that I wasn't going to be afraid to actually start my own podcast rather than just being a producer. So, and it's done wonders for my confidence. I feel like anytime you do a project like this, it should be for you. It shouldn't necessarily be for followers and all of that. Now, I'm not going to lie. I've been blown away by the fact that people will message me and say, oh, I love this show. I just saw this show. What did you mean by that? Did you ever think about this? We'll leave a message in the comments like, I really didn't think people would watch. Like, I didn't. So when I have people even asking me about the show, wanting to be on the show, and opportunities that it's open and people that I've met because of it, I know that that is God saying that, yes, this is what happens when you take a leap of faith. It's going to be scary. You're not going to know what it's going to look like. My very, very first episode was called Taking a Leap of Faith. And I truly believe that as almost a mantra. The job that I'm at right now, I didn't want to be in the career that I was in for years and years and years. Well, not that I didn't want to be in it for years and years, but I came to a point where I had been in it for so long that I no longer wanted to be in that industry. And I had no real world, I had real world experience, but I didn't have on paper degree experience for what I currently do at the new organization that I work at. Been working there for about a year and a half. On paper, I should not have been hired. And I don't even remember applying to the job. But I'm now doing what I actually prayed for when I decided to leave. I said, God, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know if I'm going to fall flat on my face, but I trust in you that you put this desire in me for a reason, and it worked out. And it typically does when I take leaps of faith. Not every single time, but I always get something out of it. I don't remember one time that I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I did it, and it totally blew up in my face. And I never, I didn't get any benefit from it. I can't even remember a time. I do want to segue into something else that I've been kind of dealing with, and I wonder if you guys are dealing with it as well. Housing. Has anybody been having difficulty finding an apartment or buying a house? So mostly in the beginning of the year, I talked a lot about home ownership, gave a lot of stats, gave finance information and all of that, because that's the mode that I was in. And I mean, I'm still in that mode, but I pretty much completed what I needed to complete. I worked on the credit, started saving the money, changed the way that I was doing my finances. All of that information that I shared, I actually implemented in my real life, and it totally changed my finances. And it is 1, 2, 3 step stuff that will literally change your circumstance. You do not have to make $1 million to save money. You don't. You don't have to make $1 million to regain your credit and get your credit back and get your score up. You don't. You just have to know what to do, where to do it, and who to be working with. And all of that information I have given away for free. But as I start to get closer, I'm looking at my credit score, jump, right? I'm doing all the right things. And as, looking at the bank account, all right, we're good to go. Inventory. I talked to 3 realtors, 1 in Pennsylvania, 2 in New Jersey. And I spoke to a woman on a Facebook group that I'm in that was in the process of buying a house. She bought her house in New Jersey, told me the rundown. Basically, everyone pretty much gave me the gist to wait. Right now, people are buying houses. Houses are sitting on the market for a day. People are spending over market. This is what I'm hearing. So I say, okay, I'll rent an apartment for a year. No big deal. Not really what I wanted to do. Finding an apartment has been a freaking nightmare. Oh my gosh. Studio apartments going for $1,700, 400 square feet. Are you joking? We're talking about New Jersey and Pennsylvania, not LA and Manhattan. Like, what? A couple of things I saw, I was just like, wait, humans can live here? Like, the stuff that I saw that I was like, all right, this is a little cheap, but let me check it out. Or this is in the price range. I'm like, what Saw death trap is this? It's been horrendous. I say that to say, if anybody's got the lick on, some hot rentals in South Jersey or Philadelphia in a location that I don't have to worry about my car being broken into every day or me being harassed outside of my door, holla at your girl, because it has definitely been a struggle. And I feel like that is definitely adding into, my mood has just, but, good news, Halloween is rolling around, and I will leave it to you guys. I have a couple of ideas, I got a couple things in the bag, but give me some suggestions. What do you guys think that I should be for Halloween? I'll give away one of the ideas I had. I was thinking about being Kamala Harris. I have this really cute Kamala wig that I bought for my birthday. I bought a bunch of wigs because I had a party in the Poconos with, just close family. But I was thinking about being Kamala. I think I might be able to pull that off, do a little wig, Joe, I think I could do it. Let me know what you think. Another idea was Jocelyn Hernandez. You guys think I could pull off Jocelyn Hernandez? I think I need probably some type of bodysuit because, I'm small. I'm small everywhere. Yeah, so give me some ideas. If you have ideas of what I can be for Halloween, let me know. And I did want to make you guys aware of my hair journey. Do you see the difference here? You see the difference? curls popping a little bit. I am growing my hair out. If you guys remember over the summer, I let you guys pick my hairstyle and I ended up getting the line down my hair. That was the most popular choice, so that's the choice that I went with. But I want to change. I've had the short hair for a really long time. And who knows? I figure if I decide it's too awkward as it starts to grow and I'm just over it and I don't want to deal with the hair, we all know I'm not afraid of a shortcut, so I can always go back to a shortcut. But I'm telling you guys to tell you that it is going to be interesting for a little bit. Now, the show will be going on hiatus during the holiday break, but we are going to squeeze in a few shows before then. So just to let you know, if you see me in a baseball cap or something like that, or you see me having a rough day, you run into me on the street, be kind. Okay? Be kind. I'm trying to do something here. Really cool announcements. I will be at a Black Cannabis event on Monday in Trenton. I posted all the information on my social media. I'm going to continue to post it. Check out my IG. It's on my page, and I'll post it again in like the stories. But if you want to see the actual page, the people that are hosting it, it's _Black Cannabis on Instagram. We actually interviewed them. I believe it was, closer to the top of the year. But we did interview Black Cannabis, and they reached out for me to host an event that they have, and they'll be going over equity and how to apply for licenses and things like that. So if that is something you were interested in, you can buy tickets. It will be in Trenton. And all of the information is on my social media. So check me out. Girls doing some things, Another event I wanted to let you guys know about is this Saturday, October 23rd. Philly Cam in Philadelphia on Randstad Street will be having a block party. And it's supposed to be really, really cool. As you guys know, Philly Cam runs the public access television and radio, all community run. And even you, if you ever wanted to get into media or broadcasting, Philly Cam is an amazing way to learn the skills to do it. They have all the equipment. They got the rooms. You get in with Philly Cam and you'll be good to go if you wanted to have your own podcast, show, radio show. Well, not podcast, but a radio show on the actual radio. If you wanted to have a public access television show on actual TV, you can do that through Philly Cam. So if you're in the area, come check me out. I will be there. I think that was pretty last but certainly not least in current events, happy birthday to my boo, Miss Sandy. Sandy, the lady who gave birth to all of this. Her. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for the woman that you made me into. Always teaching me to be strong and wise and use my words, which I'm doing with my podcast, right? Positive. No, but shout out to my mom. Even though she's a Scorpio, we're not going to hold that against her. She is a very, very dope lady and very well loved by everybody. She's awesome. And I'm pretty much her twin. I'm like the light-skinned version of Miss Sandy. So, yeah. Thanks, Mom. Happy birthday. Listen, getting on with the meat of the show. Again, not really going to get into, any politics this week. A lot of what's being reported is more of the same. And there are some things I want to break down, but I'll break it down a little closer to the end of the year. But elections are coming up, so make sure that you are prepped and ready to do that. You have your locations, you're on the website where the polling sites are going to be, or you've given in your mail-in ballot. And if you're in Camden, you will be voting for VITA, candidate number 5 for school district. All right, so I wanted to talk about a documentary that really blew me. Like, it blew me away. I did hear about the story. I know you've heard about the story, but the documentary just takes it to another level. The documentary is called Finding Kendrick Johnson, and it's available on Amazon Prime. It was $4.99, well worth it. Please support this documentary. And I have a subscription and it still made me pay for it, but this is a really important story. It's actually being narrated by Jennifer Lewis, and she has pretty much taken this on her back to promise the family that they will get some type of resolution. This entire thing, I've never heard anything like it. It's just corruption from top to bottom. I'm going to give you some of the details, and I'm going to let you know why I'm telling the story. So Kendrick Johnson was a high school teenager in Georgia, and not necessarily Atlanta area, Georgia. This is like way down close to the Florida Panhandle. It is, I forgot what the town it is, and I'm kicking myself because I can't remember the exact town. But this area is known to have a very historically racist background. So Kendrick was reported missing the day before by his family. They knew immediately something wasn't right. Kendrick was not the type of kid to just not come home, and he never came home from school that day. So the family is frantic. They notify the school. They notify the police. The next morning comes. Kendrick's body is found in the school, rolled up in a gym mat. Now, first couple of things. Mom shows up to school with the sister. They are, after about an hour, even though they pretty much knew it was him, because clearly my son has been missing. I told you he was missing. There's now a dead body in the school. And, it takes them an hour to tell the family that it is in fact Kendrick. Kendrick was found in a rolled up gym mat. We all know what these gym mats look like. They're very thick foam. We played with them when we were in high school, when we were rolling around, doing different, wrestling. Some of the gyms actually have this as a foam on the mat, but it's basically the wrestling mats that you can roll up and you slide to the back of the gymnasium like every other high school pretty much was. The death was ruled in an accident, no foul play, within hours of them finding the body. The coroner was not called to the crime scene until 5 hours after the body was found. After the body was found, school is still going on. And I just need you to think about that for a moment. Because sometimes, even while I'm watching the documentary, I see how facts, just kind of get thrown out, but we don't really think about it. We all went to high school. Can you imagine one of your classmates being found dead in the gymnasium and school still continuing? Can you imagine that? No, because it would never happen. If your school becomes an active crime scene, school does not continue. Okay? That's one. So we have this mom. I'm just imagining this. We have this mom in the entrance of the gymnasium, screaming bloody murder, crying in shock, whatever she is going through, just having found out that is in fact her son and her son is dead. Then to be told that it was an accidental death, that her son dove into a gym mat, got stuck, and died. Mind you, the gym mat is found tipped over. His body is rolled in it. He is shoeless. He's not wearing sneakers. You can see his socks. The sneakers that he was supposedly digging in for are right by his feet. So how can you be digging for sneakers while your shoes are off that end up by your feet, right? You would be diving and your hands would be closer to what you were trying to grab. There was blood on the walls of the gymnasium, never investigated. Again, this is an accident, right? Kids do this all the time. Sure, kids dive into gym mats all the time for their shoes rather than just tipping a gym mat over. Mind you, Kendrick was nearly 6 foot, or he was 6 feet. Very tall kid. Okay? So why you would think you would fit in a gym mat and dive in a gym mat? Obviously, they didn't even do a great job at coming up with a story. So clearly this is a murder they do not, or clearly this is something they do not want to investigate, right? Right. So the family obviously does not let this go. They do protests, they call legislators, they do everything that they possibly can to get this in the news and get this reported on and get some type of action taken. The sheriff's department stands by their first assessment that they made while still day one. They made the determination that it was an accident. Day one, within hours of finding the body. After not, they didn't, anyway. So they made that determination, right? The crime scene was never fully investigated. Then we get to school footage. All schools have cameras everywhere, right? Why is it that only the time of interest is footage missing? On only the cameras that we would need to see to find out what actually happened, all of a sudden, these cameras are missing. So you can see Kendrick go into the gym, but you never see him come out. You never see him come out of the gym, and that footage is missing. So now we have a sheriff's department that does not want to investigate a crime that they're calling an accident that clearly is not. Now you have a school department that is deleting video. Deleting video, right? School department has access to cameras and things like that. The school would know how to delete and where files are and how to do all of that. That's not something that even the police department would know right away. You would need to know, hey, what computer operates the camera system and what software and where do I find it? So now the school is involved. And the fact that the school didn't even shut down while there was a dead body in it, I will never know. During the course of this, and mind you, this has been going on for about 6 or 7 years, so we're skipping through time. Through the course of this, 7 judges recused themselves, right? I'm going to give you all the facts, and then I'm going to tell you a little more about who they think did all this and everything. 7 judges recuse themselves. The DOJ gets involved. They assign an agent. An outside agency is tagged to do investigating. So outside of the state, has nothing to do with this area. Nobody. They come in. They start doing investigative work. The agent that was tasked to, push this forward, he resigns. So we have then a second autopsy finally happens, so they dig his body up. When they dig his body up, they find that he has no organs. His internal organs that should be in a bag zipped up with his body, they're not there. What is there is newspaper. So they stuff the cavity of his body with newspaper. So now we have a sheriff department that doesn't want to investigate a crime that clearly is a crime. We have a school district that is deleting video footage. We have 7 judges that recuse themselves. And we have a funeral home that is now possibly implicated. Look at all these people, this big web. Why is there such a big web? Why is there such a fierce determination not to investigate this crime that was clearly a crime? First of all, when the documentary starts talking about the second autopsy, that's when they actually show the picture of Kendrick's body. And when they show the picture of Kendrick's face, it is clear to anyone with eyes that he was beaten to death. His face looks like Emmett Till's. And We'll talk about this a little more, but his story actually has a very strong tie to Emmett Till's. So why is there this big push to not investigate this crime? Apparently, Kendrick got into a fist fight with a young man named Brian Bell that is a star athlete, and his father happens to be an FBI agent. He gets into a fight. Why? Because of some girl that Kendrick supposedly... Some reports say he slept with her. Some reports say that they dated. Let's just say that they dated because it doesn't really matter about what, well, I guess it actually does because it ends up being the reason that he was murdered. Brian Bell got into a fight with him because Kendrick was dating a girl that Brian was with. Young Caucasian woman, lady, young girl. They get into a fist fight. At some point after the fist fight, Brian's father actually confronts Kendrick and says, I know you got into a fight with my son. I don't know the exact words, but something loosely around, I know you got into a fight with my son. It wasn't a fair fight. Why don't you come to our house and have a fair fight? So now the dad knows about this instance. He's invested and actually has the balls to step up to a student and say something about it. Like, what kind of coward type of dude is this? You know what I mean? Like, your son got beat up. That's what actually happened. Your son got beat up in a fight, and his girlfriend got stolen from him. He's probably incredibly embarrassed, and you were probably really, really pissed off that it was a black guy that did it. So not only did he steal your girlfriend, but when you tried to fight him over it, he beat your ass. So, father's an FBI agent. Now it starts to kind of make a little more sense why everyone is so invested to make sure that this was never investigated in the first place. There was never supposed to be a documentary. There was never supposed to be protests. This was never supposed to even make the news. This was supposed to be ruled an accident, and people were supposed to just turn away and never look again. But that is not happening because actually the DOJ has opened up the investigation again, and there is going to continue to be, there's going to continue to be light on this. The reason I bring this up is because this isn't an isolated incident. These things do happen. Now, I brought up Emmett Till because Emmett Till also was a young black man that was beat to death because he was accused of flirting with a white woman. Now, I'm biracial. I am all for interracial. But I bring this up because you have to be careful. There are still a lot of people who do not like interracial relationships. There are still a lot of people who, if you are the black guy, you are the black girl, you are enemy, and you have to be extinguished. It's too bad of an L for some white people to take that their white girlfriend left them for you, black man. That is too much for some people to take. How dare you, is how they feel. I bring this up because this isn't an isolated incident. These types of things happen where not just with the interracial thing, but more so that these crimes are not investigated. We know in New Jersey, you guys remember Amani Kildia? Remember that black man that was found in New Jersey hanging? And his family said they didn't believe that he committed suicide. The crime scene did not make sense, that he could have possibly gotten himself up there. And he did not have, I think he was about to get a job, or I'm not sure if that piece is exactly correct, but I know that the family said that they just don't believe that he would commit suicide, and why would he do it in such a public way? And during that time that Amani Kildia from New Jersey hung himself, there were like 2 other hangings in other states that were very, very mysterious. All black men. I highly suggest that you watch this documentary, pay the $5. I would even say, even though things like this are terrifying, we never want to look at it. We want to look away, but it's real. It's real. I would even say to watch this with your teenage children. So, well, they're not children, teenage young adults. Just for that added layer of awareness. There are people out here who do not want to see you do good. And you have to be mindful of that element in the world. You have to know that if you are a black guy and you start dating a young white girl, that can have implications for you. That could mean that somebody would want to do harm to you, whether it be that young lady's parents, whether it be a teacher that doesn't like it, whether that be somebody in the street that sees you guys kissing, whether that be a classmate that was dating her, that maybe she left him for you. It is a very real thing. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm biracial. I believe that the more that we mix and things like that, the more understanding we can actually get. But there is a danger to it, because if something happens, we have to remember that they don't always investigate our crimes. And for me to have a podcast, it is important that I talk about these types of things, because you're not going to always get this in mainstream media. Didn't we just see mainstream media bashed because they spent weeks and weeks talking about this blonde hair, blue-eyed Gabby Petito and not Jelani Day? That once they actually did start investigating Jelani Day's murder from Philadelphia, they found that all his organs were scooped out. So who doesn't want that to be investigated? Who is actively making sure that his culprit isn't found? How deep does that story go? And mind you, had the news media not been bashed, we wouldn't even know about it. So that gets your mind to thinking, how many hundreds of more do we not know about? From our town, from our state. We have to look at these very uncomfortable things because we need to be aware. You know, you can't say you woke and walk around, in a sleep, like a zombie, getting all your news from social media, not paying attention to actual science, not actually doing real research. I'm so sick of people. If I hear one more person say they're going to do research about the COVID vaccine, you ain't doing no research. You don't have a lab. You wouldn't even know what to do as far as research. Like, what are we talking about here, people? Yes, misinformation is a very big problem, but you're grown. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, these are playthings. These are things for fun. These are things that are not reliable. Don't try to use them in a reliable way. Don't try to use that as your main source of information. If so, I guarantee you're walking around with a lot of lies in your head that you don't even realize. So that's why I brought up this story. I know it's super heavy. I know it's not one of those things I could really button up with a bow and say, this is exactly why. But I couldn't see that documentary and not report it on the show and not encourage you to watch and to pay attention to these things when you see them. So that you're sniffing out. We can't always just believe what we see when the cops say, oh, this was, if it seems a little funny, it's probably funny. If it seems funny to you as a non-investigator, it's probably funny. And it's probably something that we need to push a little more about. Call that police department. Say, I'm concerned about this. Can you open up this investigation? You can actually do that as a citizen. Watch the documentary. And, just be aware of these things. Be aware, please, because there's too many murders that are not being investigated. There are too many things that are not being further looked into. And the common denominator is it's usually us that don't get investigated. So unfortunately, this is another one of those things that we have to be hyper vigilant about. You know what I'm saying? I did want to tell you guys about another story before we wrap, just in case, if you are in the Philadelphia area next week, or if you live in Philly and would like to join. There was a young man that was killed a year ago. His name is Walter Wallace Jr. Walter was experiencing a mental health crisis. His family called the police for assistance, and they killed Walter. Walter died that day as he was experiencing a mental health crisis, which they did let the police department know about. Power Interfaith, along with many other organizations, are pushing for reforms so that when dispatch is notified that it is a mental health crisis that is happening, or that mental health issues are a factor to the reason why they're being called out, they're asking for reform around how we do that, around how the police department handles people that are having mental health issues or a mental health crisis. On the Thursday of next week, which ends up being the 23rd, I'm sorry, not the 23rd. It ends up being the 28th. So October 28th. And I want you to check at Power Interfaith's Facebook. They've posted about the event. There will be a vigil for Walter. Not only honor Walter Wallace Jr. and his memory, but to also call for reform. So listen, that is the show this week. Again, watch that documentary. Let me know who I should be for Halloween. Tell me if you know any apartments that I could steal, or a house. And let me know if you are experiencing, some like a funky mood these days, because I certainly am. And I'd love some advice on how to get out of it. Listen, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining in. Another episode of the Spicy Pecan in the bag. Stay spicy. Be blessed. Thank you for listening to Spicy Pecan Podcast. This is a Wonderful Me Media production.